Hello and welcome to another episode of Top Deck, the series where we take a look at some of the leading TCG deck lists. And on today we have Harri, who made top 4 at the Chichester Regional, playing the typical Orcust strategy, the sort of so-called pure, if you will, version of the deck. So let's take a look at this list. Triple Ash, double Ghost Spell, and we have triple Imperm here for the hand traps, so 8 hand traps here. And then for starter cards, triple Ibbly, triple Mathematician. And then also you've got the Engages and the Hornets as well on top of that. For the Orcust lineup, 1 Skeleton, double Horror and double Nightmare. That's very typical. Sometimes we see a third copy of Horror if the deck does more special summoning. But with this version, maybe you don't really need that, given that you're just going to send it with your Mathematician anyway. Then triple Vishuda for your extenders. 1/1 for recycling the combo, triple Corpy, double Cosmic chosen as the sort of go-to best spell and trap removal that exists at the moment. 1 Foolish, it's a 1-card combo, so you may as well play it. Triple Instant Fusion, so you can lock people out with the Winder. 1 Babel and double Crescendo for your Orcust targets, and then there is 1 Eagle Booster here as well to go with the Engages, just in case you need some extra protection from hand traps. It does just force your opponent to not be able to hand trap you at a bunch of specific points. For the extra deck, double Yugioh, triple Galatea, Cerberus, double Mermaid, Phoenix, Yugioh, Monk, Kigari, Borsword, Winder, and Thousand Eyes Restrict. I think all of these are pretty common options. I don't think there's anything here that really stands out. I guess you could say playing the second Mermaid is a little bit more unusual. And then as a result there's no space for the Bomber Dragon, so there's no sort of turn 1 set up to blow up the board play. Instead you're just looking to set your Crescendo and play out from there. For the side deck, triple Lancia obviously, triple Nibiru, triple Twisters, triple Evenly, and triple Red Reboot. So 9 cards for back row hate, and then plenty of options for various combos, especially the Orcust combos that we see being very prevalent at the moment. So let's move on to the rounds then. So round 1 he went up against Guard Dragon Orcust and went 2-0 here. He won the dice roll, made the Winder Dingisu board for a free win in game 1. Game 2 he impermed the opponent's Draconet and they just had to pass there. So Harri was able to Vishuda Ibbly into the full Borsword combo and win from there. Round 2 against Marincess, going 2-0 again. Won the dice roll once again, did the Mathematician 1-card combo with a set Impermanence and a hard-drawn Crescendo. The opponent couldn't break through that board, and then bricked in game 2. Round 3 against Trains, 2-1, a scary matchup for sure. Lost the dice roll and was made to go first. Opened Mathematician Instant Fusion for the uninterrupted Dingisu Winder combo, which is very nice. The opponent had to just scoop there without playing, so forced Harri to side incorrectly. Nibiru was brought in thinking that it was like blind second Orcust or something. Game 2 there was an Ash on Harri's Mathematician, and then the opponent proceeded to make the big train and attacked him. And then game 3 went second, and then was able to plow through the relatively weak train board there. Round 4 against Goki Orcust, 0-2 here. This is, I believe, Giles. I think he was the only Goki Orcust from the event. So this is Harri's only loss from the day. The opponent won the dice roll and proceeded to make Appaloosa, Dolphin for 1, and full Orcust combo. Game 2 it became basically unplayable. It was like just the worst hand that he had for the entire event, which is a shame, but he said the opponent was a nice guy, so he couldn't really be mad about it. Round 5 against Salamangrates, going 2-1. Won the dice roll, set up a subpar board of Galatea and Babel, and after a bit of grind, the Salad was able to take it down. Game 2, Nibiru won the game after the opponent's full combo, and then in game 3, Harri chose to go second and drew the Nibiru again, and that just basically takes the game from Salamangrate there, unless they have a will, of course. Then round 6, final round against Orcust Pure. So going 2-1 here, he got paired up against an XO player, won the dice roll and went first. The opponent then proceeded to Borsword for the game. And then in game 2, Harri chose second, opened the Instant Fusion, Vishuda and Hornet drones, so was able to push through pretty much any board that existed there. And then in game 3, Harri opened Lancia and Ash for the opponent's Mermaid, so was able to lock down the board and just take the win from there. So 5-1 from this event, only lost to the second place player, and let's get into the siding strategy. So we have siding for what looks like the first 5 decks, I think. Against Guard Dragon Orcust, no changes when going first, when going second, putting in the Nibiru's, taking out 1 Ibli and double Cyclone. Obviously the Cyclone doesn't do an awful lot against a monster heavy board here. Against Marincess, no changes going first, for going second, putting in the Twisters. They do actually establish quite a lot of back row and the equip loads of the monsters to the big monster, so you can just remove some of that in order to get some free value. Taking out 1 Ibli, 1 Vishuda and 1 Instant Fusion. This is a pretty interesting combination because it means that everything is still live, but all of these essentially once per turn cards are still playable within the deck, so you're able to resolve all of them anyway. Against trains, obviously you choose to go first, and then sided in triple Nibiru, took out 2 Cosmic Cyclone, 1 Ibli here. Against Goki Orcust, for going first, putting in a triple Lancia, taking out the Ibli, Vishuda and 1 Engage. This is pretty interesting actually because it does reduce the number of starter cards that you have available. I find it quite interesting that you decided to take out the 1 Engage instead of the Eagle Booster, because I'm not sure that you need protection from the hand traps so much, but maybe you do. Maybe you expect that you need some way to protect your extra monster, like your mermaid in case of sided in hand traps, something like that. For Salamangrate, putting in the Nibiru's, taking out 2 Ibli and 1 Engage. You don't want to give them an Ibli because it's a free Bell Links for them, and otherwise just putting in the Lanciers and taking out some of the previously mentioned stuff for the Orcust Pure deck. So why did he decide to play this deck? Well, he felt that Orcust was the most flexible going first or second, and he didn't want to rely on the dice roll too much. The most difficult matchup that he faces is generally the Sky Striker matchup, because he was lucky. He says he was lucky to dodge it all day, and he finds Salamangrate to be an easier matchup due to the ability to banish Gazelle with Crescendo and just win from there. He says that he chose to play a much purer list than most that you see at the moment. So many of them are sort of Go Second or Lunalight or even the Cyber Dragon variants. He found it to have a much stronger turn 3 follow-up with this version of the deck, where he didn't have to rely on his negates stopping the opponent turn 1, because he could just weaken the board a little bit and then follow up and win the game in the next turn anyway. As for how it helped and hindered at the event, having access to the 1-card combos such as the Ibli and Mathematician meant that his hands would be full of like Call by the Grave and hand traps, giving him a much higher chance to live through the following turn if he was interrupted. At the deck's usual choke points, things like when you put the Mermaid out. So extra resilience there from being able to play all of the other cards. As for changes that he would make to the deck, he says he was overall pretty happy with the list. He would the only change he would make would be finishing, finding some space for a Nightmare Unicorn within the extra deck. Potentially that could be a Mermaid coming out, but maybe you do need the second one for when they interrupt your first one. The sets that were most influential were probably the addition of the 10 Vishuda being a mess buff. Going first, it's a basic starter, and going second, it's the most free negate bait that ever existed, to be honest. As for shoutouts, shoutouts go to Danny Stockton and Matt Winkle for helping him to get the cards and perfect his list. To everyone at Chichester and Portsmouth locals for being great for playtesting week in and week out. Shoutouts to Ryan State for his first regional top alongside him, and shout out to all of his opponents who were great sports every round. As for further comments, he says that everyone knows Orcust to be one of the strongest decks of the format and understands the power of the blind second build, but a lot of people sleep on a more reserved go first grind setup, and he believes that it is one of the most versatile decks of the format and has great potential. So thanks very much for coming on, Harri, sharing your top 4 list from the Chichester WCQ. Congratulations on taking it with this very nice, very pure Orcust list, and great to see your comments and your information about how this deck operates within this format. Thanks for watching this episode of Top Deck. If you have any comments or suggestions that you would like to make, leave them in the comment section down below. Check out the description for details of how you can get involved in this series. You can enter by voice interview, or instead you could just send all of your information over Facebook Messenger. Anything like that will be absolutely fine. If you want to see anything in particular from the upcoming series, then be sure to get in touch, and I'll see you guys in the next video.